Monday, June 30th. Welcome into KC Sports Tonight. Marlia Campbell here alongside Gabe Sports. Gabe, I was out of town all last week, and I was watching the Royals on my phone whenever I could, and I kind of wish I didn't because a rough homestand outside of a flash of light, I guess, on Saturday with the bats coming alive. But Royals head to the Pacific Northwest today. It'll be late baseball early this week with an 8:40 start against the Mariners tonight. Look, Gabe, Royals last place in the league in runs scored, last place in total home runs, last place in walks, on base percentage. I mean, every offensive category is at least 25th or worse and probably near last place. So now what? Where do you go from here? And this kind of ties in with our second conversation point of the day, which is the MLB trade deadline coming up in about a month.
Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned watching and feeling like you didn't need to watch, and I will say I was
Groundhog Day
occupied with a wedding this weekend, and so I was not watching Friday night. I was tracking the scores on my phone. I did not have a chance to watch or even track any of the scores on Saturday night. So when somebody alerted me late in the evening that the Royals won, and not only won but scored 9 runs in doing so, I almost didn't believe it, and I had to go search the YouTube highlights.
For the Royals score.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, no, there's no way they scored 9 runs. And so I had to watch the YouTube highlights to make sure that that actually happened. And then I did end up watching Sunday's game, and to your point, probably felt like I didn't necessarily need to because after the first inning, they did nothing offensively. And it was a lot of the similar things. So yeah, it's just been the same story. It is extremely frustrating. I think we can say sound like a little bit of a broken record, but again, same spot they were in at the start of last week against the Rays, where you're playing against a team who is in the heart of the AL wildcard race. And so 4 games against the Mariners, you could glass half full, you could say, okay, we could make up some ground here.
Yeah.
Glass half empty, you could say, well, if we keep struggling, then they're going to be so far out of it. They're 4.5 games back of the Mariners, who are, at the moment, the 3rd AL wildcard team, and they're about to play them 4 consecutive nights. So
in the
hopefully
midst of
things
probably their biggest offensive slump of the season, outside of the outlier of Saturday.
Exactly. So it's just it has not been good. I think that the concerning stuff remains that not only does it just feels like the same story every day.
Yeah.
And that's the most probably frustrating part about it.
Yeah, you heard Matt Quatraro in post game yesterday saying they're in a rut right now. We need to score more runs. It's you could take those sound bites, I think, from any week, and it would resonate. But Gabe, point 2 now, MLB trade deadline coming up. Do you see the Royals being aggressive, making any big moves? You're shaking your head. I don't think you're optimistic.
I don't think so. I mean, I think that if it continues to go poorly, the Mariners are a good team. The Diamondbacks are a good team. That's their next 7 games this week. You could be at a spot in mid-July where it just doesn't make sense to add. And if anything, it makes a lot of sense to utilize your strengths to set yourself up for the future, because I don't know necessarily what the long-term process or the long-term future of a guy like Seth Lugo is in Kansas City. A guy like I mean, you have to get something, I guess, if you're just not going to be a playoff team, and it would take almost borderline a miracle for this team to be a playoff team given its current state of affairs offensively. And there are a lot of teams who have similar issues offensively. I can think of several in the NL who put up a lot of runs and have trouble stopping teams from scoring runs. Namely, and I've seen this, it feels like every time that I read a trade deadline primer from like The Athletic or ESPN.com, and they list the teams who are buying and the teams who are selling, and they list the teams who are looking for pitching and the teams who are looking for bats. The teams that are looking for pitching, there are a lot of them, and the Royals are not among those teams. They are one of the teams that actually could be looked at for pitching.
Sure.
If you could get something from Seth Lugo, or you could get something out of a Michael Lorenzen, and I think that there are several teams in the NL, as I mentioned, that like the Cubs come to mind as a team that scores a lot of runs, but can't necessarily stop teams from scoring runs. The Brewers have similar issues, although they've got a guy who's from Blue Springs, from this area, Jacob Misiorowski, and he's lighting it up. So maybe he's helping them fix things. I don't know. I do think that they are a lot closer to being sellers than buyers, which is interesting given the report that came out a couple weeks ago that the front office shut down as unequivocally false.
Yeah.
I think that at this point it would be negligence to like not be looking into what you can get back for guys who are productive, who don't have a long-term future in Kansas City.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the other big storyline of the day, which is, I put an asterisk because this was, Kansas City was by no means a front runner for a WNBA expansion team. Certainly that conversation heated up when Patrick Mahomes said, I think it was late last year, if not early this year, football season is kind of one giant blob in my memory, but he mentioned that Kansas City was putting together kind of a quote-unquote committee to bid for a WNBA team in town. He was very vocal about that at the podium and why Kansas City deserved a team. Certainly, I can put together a petition right now with, the different facilities that we have here, the groundwork that the Current has laid. But WNBA announced 3 expansion teams sites today on the timeline that Kansas City wanted, so that 2028 range. This will be 2028 to 2030. Kansas City not on that list. I believe it was Cleveland,
Detroit and Philadelphia.
Yep. Who I will kick off this conversation by saying all teams with NBA franchises. So one reason to not get too down is that these are, kind of affiliated squads. But Gabe, I guess your initial reaction, disappointment, surprise?
I don't know if I'm not necessarily surprised.
Yeah.
I do think that it would make sense for a WNBA team to be in Kansas City eventually. I don't know how long it will take for the league to get to a larger span, but if you look at just every major sports league in the United States or in North America, the way that things are going, they usually end up at somewhere around 30 teams. This brings the WNBA to 18 teams.
Yeah.
So I don't think the positive spin is to be like, oh well, in 20
Not
years
yet.
when the
Yeah.
league is at 30
Yeah.
teams,
Yeah.
they're gonna have a team.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it really gets people excited if you're like, oh, we might have a team in 2045.
Yeah.
But I would also think that at some point the NBA or the WNBA is going to want a team in the middle of America. The counterpoint to that, I guess, though, would be that they had a team in Tulsa that had to fold.
Yeah.
But if you look at the map of teams, it is basically
There
a
is a
giant
glaring
view
hole. Yeah.
of the United States because it's
Yeah.
down the Pacific. They added a team in Golden State recently. They added teams in Philly, Cleveland, Detroit up there, and I think Toronto's getting a team. And the closest team to here, I would either be Minnesota, Indiana, or Dallas.
Chicago,
I guess
yeah.
they're basically all
Yeah.
7-8 hour. Yeah, Chicago, 7-8 hour drives. I think that based on the success of the Current, you have a tangible business model for successful women's sports in Kansas City. So I think that it will happen eventually. I just don't know if it's going to happen now, or I know that it's not going to happen now. And so that is obviously frustrating for people who like women's sports in Kansas City and people who want to see professional basketball in Kansas City, because we do not have that, even though the appetite, at least for collegiate basketball, is plenty in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But like Denver doesn't even have a team, and
Yeah.
that's a team that's even. I mean, you can debate whether that's closer to the middle of the country, but it's more centrally located
And they have the
than
Nuggets right
everything on
nearby.
the coast.
Yeah.
Exactly, and they have an NBA team in that city.
Yeah.
But off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of teams. I don't believe there are any cities that have a WNBA team that don't have an NBA team
to partner.
except for Seattle.
Yeah.
And even a city like Boston doesn't have one yet.
Yeah.
So the
The
sad
logic
thing is
makes
it
sense
could be a while for
emotionally.
Kansas City.
Yeah. Of course, these 3 expansion sites also came with a $250 million price tag. I mean, I think being a Kansas City native, a former Division I basketball player, and now a sportscaster in Kansas City, I'm like, why not KC?
Yeah.
Especially when you look at the ownership group kind of behind that. effort anytime you have Mahomes attached to anything. It certainly feels like, I think we got a little bit, I at least got excited when that headline started flurrying. And you look at Mahomes' involvement in the Royals and, Sporting Kansas City, and obviously the Current and the work that he and Brittany do there. And it just felt like the momentum was going the right way. And it also feels like Patrick Mahomes is so reserved with what he says at the podium. So for him to bring that up felt like, okay, maybe this is moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
But
I think that it's easy for them to have optimism, but like Front Office Sports I was reading today, Front Office Sports reported about who actually submitted bids in, and Kansas City did not.
Yeah.
So I don't even know how
I wonder
close
when that stumble
they are.
along, from that press conference mid-football season to now when the roadblock hit. And we may never know. And we may know in, 10, 15 years from now
when they get a team and they're like, we weren't really that close at this point. So.
Yeah, well, it'll probably be more of a hindsight thing that we're able to look back on. But, I think about this is not very similar, but the bid to get the NFL draft in Kansas City, Kathy Nelson and company actually started that process in 2012 and got told no once, and then finally got it to Kansas City in 2023. So these things take time. The 3 cities that got them make sense. It's not like it was the middle of nowhere, Alaska, and it's like, come on. I mean, you look at the markets that got it, and it makes sense, but time will tell. Gabe, before we go, we got 3 weeks and 1 day until training camp starts.
Oh, okay.
Hard to believe.
I was trying to think of what's coming up in 3 weeks.
Exactly 3 weeks from tomorrow. I say this because this is actually kind of our, once we get to training camp, you get straight into preseason games, you get a week off, and we're at week 1. So really the season is here before you know it, which feels crazy because we were seemingly just in New Orleans. But Gabe, anything you're looking forward to most, maybe headlines that you're following even over these next couple of weeks, but day 1, what are you looking for? There's a good one. Day 1 unpadded. What are you looking for?
I think that you just want to see everybody wants to see what rookies look like because for the most part, a team that plays into February, I don't know how much you could really worry about veterans showing up and doing anything.
Yeah.
So I think it's
that they report on the same day this year, or this year. Usually you get the rookies 4 days before.
I think that the age of Patrick Mahomes, the fact that he turns 30 in September, he might be a little bit more like, hey, I'd love to have 3 extra days of summer if we could, Andy. And Andy might be a little bit more open to that. So I think that that's open to, I think whenever it is that you or I get up to St. Joe, I'm going to be at least looking for Rashee Rice and how he's moving around, because it's every time you go up to St. Joe, it's very notable how fast he and Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, when they're all healthy, are. And so I want to see what that looks like.
We got one look at Rashee Rice at OTAs. He was there for a lot of them, but I think he was sick one day and had an excused absence the other open media day. The one day, maybe like 7 minutes, we got to look at him. He looked great. But yes, seeing him in extended action and kind of going through drills and watching him turn on a dime and those kind of things. He says he feels great. I believe it. His teammates say he's, kind of back to where he was preseason. And you and I have talked about on this show, you never want to see an injury, but for an injury to happen, when it did, kind of worked out because he seemed to be running and doing drills and posting teaser videos like towards the postseason last year, which means he'll have plenty of time. It's not like he's pushing August to try to get back in time. But yeah, that'll be a big one. And we've talked about the left tackle position will be interesting, although I think that's a little bit more sorted out than it was this time last year, with Jalen Moore probably taking the starter reps and Josh Simmons kind of easing back into that backup role, especially coming off the patellar tendon. But then again, Andy Reid has said that Josh looks a lot farther along than he even expected from the knee injury. So we'll see there as well. Also interesting in secondary, Gabe, with the departure of Justin Reed and Trent McDuffie stepping into a bit more of a vocal leadership position, I guess, which is something that, we were talking to some of those guys at the podium last week, and there isn't an obvious vocal leader in that room with the departure of Justin Reed. He's been there for, 6 years?
3.
3
there, and then, he was there for 3, and Tyrann Mathieu was there for 3. So they've had
guys.
a veteran role in the safety room for that long.
So it'll be interesting to see, I think, who steps in there, and for another year we have kind of an up for grabs starting spot back there. So
it is the time of year though where nothing of note is truly happening in NFL circles, and so at least just parsing through like the national headlines of NFL news and people giving out their way too early predictions or their I want to say something that's going to get me attention this summer. It's good to note that the Chargers are once again the June favorite for the AFC West, and people are believing that Bo Nix is going to be Drew Brees this season, and so Patrick Mahomes has lost his complete ability to throw footballs, and the Chiefs are vulnerable. That's what I've been told. So I can't wait to get to St. Joe and hear it. But
I feel like there's just a copy and paste for every offseason just to give some bulletin board material for St. Joe.
It's good to give a team that when they're coming off of a Super Bowl loss, and most teams have some Super Bowl hangover. The Chiefs' version of Super Bowl hangover, the last time that they lost the Super Bowl was losing in the AFC Championship game. So I think that's my standard.
There you go.
Is can they get back to there?
Speaking of very early predictions, I got a notification for a 2026 mock NFL draft today. So we're
and I was just reading 2026 NBA mock drafts because of Darren Peterson. So
fortunately, 3 weeks, 1 day, and we are in full swing because you immediately go from training camp straight into preseason games, and then week 1 be here before we know it, September 5th. For now, though, that'll do it for us on KC Sports Tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow.